Hello, my name is Kit Cabell, one of the co-founders of Veracity In Defiance, and today we have a special interview here in our studio. I'm joined with my fellow co-founder, Diesel Dees, aka also known as Richard Lake. Welcome to the studio, Diesel, and also we are joined by our special guest. Can you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Ismael Rosa. Hello, everyone.
Now, you and Diesel have a special relationship. You guys have known each other for a long time. Can you care to elaborate, like when you two first met?
Yes, he was a young man trying to sneak into the salsa scene and play the synth. He was playing the piano, and I figured that he could do a little better just expressing himself in the synth. Now, the synthesizer is the one that adds all the little extra, the special feel to the music, and he was great at that, and so he showed it and proved it in the music.
So, Diesel, when you first met Ismael, what was your initial thoughts? Like, what was going on?
Well, at that time, I was barely playing piano. I was playing with some little. I think I was playing with TP Guy. Remember?
Yes.
And there's another local Chicago band that brought up a lot of musicians, like at the high school level, young kids. What was that guy's name? It was Luis. Remember? Yes, at the C had a funny name. I remember his son Joe Luis worked for the board, so I knew him. But anyway, yeah, I came up out with them, and somebody had my number. Caribe Ruiz.
Carlos Caribe Ruiz.
Yeah, was it, yeah.
You're talking about.
He's a South legend in Chicago. That guy was he brought
he's
a
a legend.
He was like the Tommy Olivencia. He brought up a lot of singers and players like they did in Puerto Rico.
Did you know that he was the guy that discovered me?
Really?
Yes.
So you're involved in salsa music. When did you first get involved in the scene? When did you first were discovered, and what actually attracted you to music?
I was in music all my life. I used to watch my father, who was a minister, prepare for Sunday school, and prepare the songs and sit in the balcony and play the guitar. And I would sit on the floor of the balcony and just stare at him. I was maybe 4 or 5. One day, they brought me a guitar for the Three Kings Days. It's that's how we celebrate in Latin America and most of Europe. We celebrate Christmas, the day that the gifts were brought to baby Jesus. Okay. So that's the day that the kids get their gifts. So on that morning, I got a guitar. And I got a couple toys too, but my brothers were outside playing with their toys, and I grabbed the guitar, and I was so ecstatic. I just grabbed it, and I started to play what throughout the years I had seen my father do. And I never knew that I could play the guitar. Nobody knew that I could play the guitar. So here's this 8-year-old boy sitting down in bed, strumming away, because my father had pre-tuned the little guitar, and I'm over there singing, and I hear my mom running, Francisco, you gotta see this, in Spanish, and I didn't think anything of it, and suddenly everything went real quiet, and I'm just playing and singing, and I looked to the side, and we didn't have doors, we had curtains.
Okay.
So all of a sudden I look, and I see like 7 heads by the curtain, and everybody's looking at me, and they're all like, and I'm like, what? I'm like,
nothing unusual happening here.
And
playing
they go,
the
my
guitar.
God, who taught you how to do this? Nothing, it's like. So that night, my father asked me to. He said, we're gonna show you off at church tonight. So that night, I went to church and I took the guitar, and he says, okay, my son is gonna play for you. Everybody thought that, oh my God, he bought him a guitar, and now he's gonna bring this kid over here to make all kinds of noise just because he's the pastor, just because he's the kid at church, So I'm like, what? I don't know. I walked up with my little tie, my little bow tie, and I walked up so straight, and I grabbed the guitar, and when I started playing, the whole church went like. And that's the same thing that happened with Carlos Caribe. I was doing a high school Latin American assembly, and. The youngster that was going to sing 2 songs about Puerto Rico, he was a good a cappella singer. He had a very nice voice, but when it came to playing with the band, and we had the high school orchestra, from which I was the bass player. I was one of the bass players of the orchestra. And so with the band, he just couldn't come in at the right places, and he couldn't, he was always off of the timing and off key. And so, but when he did it by himself, he sounded great. So I pulled him over to the side, and I was trying to give him some hints of what was going on. He then try to do it, and so I told him, listen, let's sing. I'm gonna sing it along with you, and just sing with me and listen to what I'm saying. I want you to hear certain things of the music and let that affiliate that with your singing. Maybe you can fall right into the groove. And so when he tried it, and I sang along with him, it was like everybody was like, again, man, you can sing, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm the bass player. I don't come here to sing. And so now the young man is ashamed and embarrassed because I could sing.
Okay.
And he could sing too, but like I could sing. I was a natural. Yeah. So it ended up where I ended up doing the whole thing. And by the time we did the show, Carlos Caribe Ruiz, he was one of the producers of most of the biggest bands in the city.
Oh, he brings like a promoter?
Yeah, he used to work for the Department of Human Resources, and he had access to a lot of the city events, and so he would take kids from the street and pull them out of gangs, pull them out of the neighborhood, and buy them an instrument and bring them over to his offices on North and Oakley, I believe it was. And I think it was 2315 West North Avenue. And he would grab these kids, teach them how to play the instruments, and put them in a band, and 6 months later you see them on stage. Well, he did the same thing with me. I wasn't a street kid. I was a preacher's kid, So I was like the hick of the crowd. I dressed like a church boy. I acted like a church boy because that's what I was. Okay. Actually, I was in Bible college already. Okay. So he wanted me to be a minister. So I'm performing at this place. Nobody knows who I am, because I'm just the bass player of the band, the high school orchestra. And so it's 1973, we're on stage, the whole auditorium is packed, and I have about 16, 17 girls with typical dresses dancing around me, and they're moving these beauties all over, with the flowers and all these things, and they are dressed like the jíbaro. Okay. Jíbaro is the word that's basically all Puerto Ricans are jíbaros. We are men that the Puerto Rican man was in the old days like the farmer, the caretaker of the farm, the provider. So the land of the jíbaro, the land of the farmer, right. The land of he who provides from the land. And
I never knew that.
That's what jíbaro. And in the Cuban phrase is guajiro, which is the same thing. Mm-hmm. And so we. Look at that and see now that hick, but it's not. It doesn't mean hick. It means country boy. It means the guy that cares for the country, the farmer, And so I'm performing. I finish singing, and all of a sudden everything goes. Everybody stands up and everybody's clapping and they're screaming, and the guy's like, that's who I'm looking for. And he was the manager for La Justicia Orchestra. La Justicia was the top band in the 70s here. And
here in Chicago.
Here in Chicago, yes. And the lead singer had been drafted to the army. So this guy was a sonero. Now,
what does that mean?
Sonero is the type of guy that can go to any stage at any time. It's your band. You're performing on stage, and you know that I can sing. I'm a sonero, so you don't have a problem saying, "Come on up," and I'm gonna sit with you, and I'm just gonna go right into the song, and you don't have to tell me anything about the song. I'm just gonna sing like I own the song.
Okay, so he was.
So this is the type of guy that this guy was. His name is Wito, and so Jap, who is going to perform with me in this new concert that I have coming real soon, was also one of the singers of the band. Jap is a romantic singer. His voice is suave. He's the type of guy that sung, and when he sang, girls were like, "Ooh, I like him." You know, "Ooh, he's so fine. Ooh, he can sing to me." You know, and so even though he was a sonero, his voice was the romantic one. Now, a sonero is the guy that's the aggressive one.
Okay.
You know, and so kind of like the Rolling Stones.
Oh, okay. So he's like that, right?
Yeah.
Mick Jagger, he was the type of guy that is an aggressive guy.
Yeah, Mick Jagger.
You know, then you got
hip hop. This guy had.
Exactly. You got Rod Stewart. He's more of a songwriter, and he's still a heck of a rocker. But you know, the differences. One is wild, the other one is no wild, but he was more like, you know, suave. Okay. So I see myself on stage, and they're still clapping, and a couple of minutes went by, and so we have to wait till they stop clapping so I can sing the next song, and I go in and I do it. At the end of the show, he's saying, "That's the voice I've been looking for." He needed a sonero, someone whose voice was up front, someone that the voice has a high range and a low range, and this is where I was at. And so when they called me, nobody knew my name. I was a preacher's son. In high school, who knows a preacher's son?
No one knew who you were.
Exactly. Who knows the guy that goes to church? Nobody knows him. So, you know, they, instead of calling my name, they say, "Hey, Jibaro, Jibarito."
Okay.
You know, and I'm dressed like the hick. I'm the guy that's dressed, you know, like a farmer. Right. So I turn around and I look, and the girls start giggling. "Oh my God, look, he answered. He's the Jibarito." And that's how I got the nickname. And on the stage, on this concert, I'm going to kind of reproduce a similar scenario where, even though the girls won't be wearing the old time dresses, I want to make it more modern, but the same scenario, and have a real good clip on that too.
So you said you're about a show. Can you tell us a little about the show that's coming up?
Yeah.
Nobody really knows about it yet. You want to promote that out there?
Yeah, let's actually promote it for our viewing audience, so they know where it's at, and if they want to go see it, just give them the location where they can go.
Okay, after you all know I was in prison for a long time. I got caught up in a situation where I knew different individuals that were doing drug deals, and I got caught up in what they call a conspiracy. I was on the phone, and 6 days was all that it took for me to talk to an individual that was part of this conspiracy. And within that day, within that time frame, they broke down my conversations and changed them from the sale of a vehicle to sale of drugs. Of course, there was a lot of that going on. Mm-hmm. So it's easy to say, I gave him the 10,000, but he wants the other 10. You know, and I didn't say I gave him the $10,000.
Right.
So it's easy to change things, right. And it's something that people should know and be aware of, because you never know who the other person is, and should you know, you have to be more aware of those things. Mm-hmm. And so I was in the music field, and along with me, one of the managers of Juan Gabriel, a very famous Mexican artist
who just passed.
Wow. Yes, and a dear friend.
Reach out to his family. Sorry.
Yes, I performed with him in 1986 at the Pan American Festival in
Navy Pier.
Navy Pier. You remember that day?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and Celia Cruz was there, and he was there, and El Caballo Negro was there too, a very famous Dominican merengue guy. Yes, and we were all there. It was real cool. Anyways, this guy got 18 years. The same thing, and I got slammed. I got slammed real bad, and I was at that time I was the top artist in the Midwest. I had an awesome orchestra. I had a great show. I performed for presidents. I performed for judges. I performed for mayors. Every single mayor in the city of Chicago, starting from Richard Daley, the old man, the father,
right?
Okay, has used me at one time or another to do a fundraiser for their campaigns. Every single one of them, from Bilandri to Byrne, and Mayor Washington, and I were on Channel 9, I believe it was, or Channel 5. The guy that used to play Svengoolie.
I know it.
He had a talk show.
Yes,
he had a talk show. And we were doing a fundraiser, and we have Mayor Washington with his arm around me, and we're singing "My Kind of Town, Chicago" is salsa style.
So there's a different style the way Chicago.
Well, you know, it's like town. My kind of town, Chicago is my kind of people, my kind of place is my kind of town.
You know, I want to hear the whole version of that. It sounds a lot better. That sounds a lot better. In fact, we actually got a clip of you and Diesel, a young Diesel D's.
A young me too.
Yeah. No way, man. You're doing better than Diesel right here. But let's actually see a little clip here. Actually, would you mind? All right, so we're seeing you guys play. Where was this at, and what year? You guys know?
It's 91. It says Excalibur, but I don't think that's correct. Excalibur's a bigger club, but some nightclub in the city. But yeah, you can see.
That's a small room at the Excalibur Club.
Oh, it's small.
That's a small room. That's the one that when you walk through the door, you go right in the right hand side. Yeah, that's the smaller room at the Excalibur Club, and I think it was and
there's Jap.
Synergy.
I remember
that. Was it the Synergy concert?
No.
Yeah. I mean,
it was
something like that. Something like that.
And this was your whole band and orchestra that you had?
Yes. Now, see the guy, the black guy in the back with the white shirt.
Yes. Okay, I see him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Elmer Brown.
Elmer Brown. Okay, now
that's Earth, Wind and Fire. Elmer Brown.
Oh my God, you had him in your band.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And he's gonna perform with me.
Again.
On this concert again.
December 2nd, yes?
December 2nd. Okay, so December 2nd is where this concert's going to be at. Yeah. And again, where's the location?
That'll be at Mambo Cafe Club at 3336 North Milwaukee Avenue in Chicago.
Yeah. All right, let's actually hear that again just one more time, just for our audience. All
right, so it's called Una Noche con Ismael. That's an evening with Ismael.
Yeah.
Salsa con nostalgia, nostalgic salsa. In other words, old school salsa. I have two guests. I have Juan Castro, who is going to perform with me, and I already told you he's a romantic.
Okay.
He's a romantic. He's
a slayer. Watch out.
He's a slayer. And then, of course, the surprise guest of the evening is American Idol's Chicago's own from season 12, Devin Velez. He is going to be performing with us live too. He's on tour, and what did Smokey Robinson say about him? He said, "This kid's got something special."
Right. And
he took him under his wing and taught him all kinds of things, and you're going to be able to see him that night. He's going to perform with me. So this is why it's a concert. It's a place. Is there a dancing room? Yes, there's dancing room on the side. Right. But the place is going to be a concert. So this boy is going to sing. By the way, he's my great nephew. He's my sister's grandson, and he really can't sing. He really can sing.
Runs in the family. So it's going to be on December 2nd. What time will it start?
Okay, I'm going to start the first set at 9 o'clock.
No, okay, so 9 p.m.
And yes, it's from 9 to 2 in the morning.
All right, so it's going to be a long evening party, and it's a good welcome home. So
yes, they wanted to have a party for me to welcome me home. I wanted to thank everyone. I wanted to thank the media that made it possible for my case to be heard publicly. Mm-hmm. I want to thank every single person. There's a lot of churches out there that had prayer and faster meetings and services, and they spread the word out, and they signed petitions. And I want to thank the friends throughout the city and throughout the whole world. Listen, I have letters that were sent to the president from South Africa, from Australia, from Japan.
Right.
And
what were these letters for?
These letters were like, one of them just said, "Let this man go." And the person,
So you're talking about when
South Africa. This man has been in there for too long. I read his case. It says, I read his case. I don't see anything that he's done. How could he be serving a life sentence? I had life without the possibility of parole. Talk about miracles. I don't know, but I do believe in miracles. And I became a minister in prison. I was the #1 barber at Pekin FCI, Federal Correctional Institution in Pekin, Illinois. I was there for 16 years. Right. I started in Florence, Colorado, where they have the underground prison, that's Supermax, and
they had you in that facility.
Man, it was crazy. It was crazy. I was a singer. I was a lover, not a fighter, like they said. But I ended up there. I lost all my appeals. I had no possibility of freedom. I was already resigned and centered, and I was the pastor at the church over there, and I was the #1 barber over here, and this was my life. My family came to see me. I had them already used to being relaxed. Don't worry, I'm gonna die in prison, but I'm okay. And that's the problem with the federal system. You get a lot of time. You're gonna be all right. We'll feed you, we'll dress you, we'll keep you here, and it's too easy. A lot of guys come in and out of prison because sometimes prison life is a lot better than outside life.
And the world, it's quite clear that the United States has a very unjust system of laws, as well as a harsh prison life that a lot of people, when they get out, it's difficult to adjust. Now, when you got out, what were your initial thoughts as soon as you were at least let's go to the moment where you were finally about to be set free. What's going on?
Well, you got that kind of like, so you think you're getting letters in, and these are all petitions to get you out. Is that what they were for?
Yeah. It was like my family said to me one day, well, we have to start fighting for you. I says, well, I've been fighting. I don't want you to get the wrong impression, and I don't want you to dream an impossible dream.
Right.
The system changed. You no longer can fight after you lose the allotted amount of appeals that you can submit to the courts. My judge was so freaked out. I mean, he was really, really moved by the job that the attorneys that they gave me put together. He sent a letter to the president saying, Your Honor, Mr. President, I did not want to give this man the time that he got. My hands were tied. I wanted to give him the low end of the sentence guidelines, but the U.S. attorney filled in one sheet of paper. Why did he do that? Because I exercised my right to remain silent. I believe that the Constitution is supposed to be the law. And if you have the right to remain silent, no one has the right to punish you for exercising that right.
Absolutely.
Whether you're guilty or not. You can be punished for having been found guilty, but not for exercising the right to remain silent. What I'm saying is, had I talked, had I said, yeah, he did this, he did that, he was doing this, I was just a singer, and if I wanted to bring forth others and snitch on others, then I could be free. I was offered like 4 years. Why did I get a life sentence? Sometimes I think, did I make the right choice? But I had a 17-year-old and 18-year-old that were in high school. I had one that was in 8th grade. I had another one that was in 6th grade. Do I want to put my family in danger because I got caught up in a group of guys that were doing something and I'm being found guilty of being part of it because by association, because I knew it was just phone calls.
Right.
It was just phone calls. And I got a life sentence for phone calls. So I still don't understand how that happened. The judge explained to the president how he didn't want to do that. And so that had a lot to do with...
Wait, so you're saying the judge who sentenced you, he wanted to give you a lighter sentence?
Of course, the most he wanted to give me was 12 years.
But he was mandated, he said that he had to give you a life sentence?
So he's mandated by the current U.S. attorney at that time to give you that mandate of life behind bars.
You know, I still don't understand what's going on. I recently did an interview with a French group of newspaper people, and they're working on something about the president, and they used my case to show some of these things and some of the irregularities in the system. And the biggest irregularity is that how does the judge he's taken and assigned by the president. He is one of the 3 powers of this nation, right? So he, in the judicial power, he is the guy that should have the say-so in a court. If he does not like something in a court, he should have the power. If he has the power to veto the president, to veto Congress, and so on, and back and forth, he should have the power to veto what any U.S. attorney has to say.
Right, because that's his court.
Or what any U.S. attorney wants to submit. He is the one that interprets and applies the law, correct?
Right.
So it's really not like that. The U.S. attorney told him, Your Honor, you have to do this. We gave him the dice. He will not roll the dice. I thought I had the right to remain silent.
No, which is our constitutional right.
So
and a right
you're
to a fair trial.
You're punishing me because I did not roll the dice with you. I thought I had that right. So anyways, here I am today. And I thank God and I thank everybody for helping me out. And that's what this concert is all about. It's not really about me, it's about you. It's about all of you.
And all the people who helped you out.
Yes. I would not be here today had God not said it's time to go home. And God's will and power used the president to be moved. Used these attorneys. They're beautiful ladies. I got a group of attorneys. Oh man, you're gonna be at the show, right?
I'm definitely gonna be there December 2nd.
We will be live.
We'll be live streaming
this thing. Definitely will be there.
Yeah, we'll be live streaming the concert.
Yes.
So make sure you guys tune into that.
Leave my lawyers alone. They're beautiful.
You know, I can't make any promises, but I'll do the best that I can.
I'm still trying very hard.
We're only human, folks. We're only human.
So tell us more about the show, though.
Yes.
You said that you're
okay. I have.
So you have your special. You told us who your special guest is and who your other guest is.
Okay.
But what else is happening in the show?
it seems to me like everyone in this band that we put together is a special guest.
Okay.
Okay, these guys volunteered to perform and to do this performance free for me as a fundraiser to help me out. I lost everything I had. I live with my daughter, and I'm not in the gutter, but you know I'm.
You're getting back out there.
Yeah, the hearing aids I wear are very expensive. My eyeglasses, it took me like 3 months to get them. Not that my family couldn't help. It's just that we're, you know, it's slow.
Is it hearing aid from standing in front of
Can you hear me now?
Kenny
Yes,
Anderson and Elmer Brown for 5 years?
Yeah. Now man, it's crazy, but that's what happens when you're a musician. Most musicians lose their hearing real fast. Rock musicians, salsa musicians.
Oh, I used to get blasted all the time because we'd set up on the stage. You know, you'd have the keyboard players on each end, and I'd always get this end, and there's Kenny and Elmer, and they would just black, because they're awesome horn players. They could just blow the hell out of that horn, and you would just go out and break it. You like half your head would be like, okay, you'd be dizzy off the time. So I can understand, but yeah, that was awesome.
And the thing is that I'm in the front.
Yeah.
So all this noise is blasting right at my ears, and so it messed me up. But so they wanted to do a fundraiser for me at a party, a welcoming party. I really didn't, you know, I liked the idea, but I really didn't want to do that. I really wanted to concentrate on the people. I wanted, how can I tell everyone thank you?
Right.
And the best way I can do that is by doing the one thing that God gave me. That child that was playing the guitar on the bed that morning, El Día de Reyes, the day of the three kings, the three wise men. By the way, that's the last day of Christmas. Did you know that?
7th or 8th?
The 6th of December.
6th.
You know, it's 12 days of
January.
Christmas. No, 6th of January. 12 days of Christmas. Nobody knows what the 12th day is because we celebrate the 25th.
Right.
You
Not
know,
on 25th,
but
yeah, on 24th,
the Christian,
25th is Christmas
the
Day.
Christian day to give the gifts to the kids is the day. It was the last thing that happened in the scenario of the birth of Jesus Christ. Is when the three wise men finally found him and presented the gifts.
Yeah, the Epiphany, right? And they call it the
Yes.
Epiphany. Yeah.
And so that's what the world used to celebrate it till Santa Claus or Saint Nicholas.
Wow.
Saint
Whoever it
Nicholas,
was.
which is an interesting
Yeah.
historical fact. There was a Saint Nicholas, but he was in the Byzantine Empire and he was a priest. But that's a story for another day, folks.
Okay.
There's your real Saint Nicholas right there.
All these guys, these band members, to me, they're family. I have guys that perform with me, like Juan Castro from La Justicia. That's 1973. We made our first recording in 73. I wrote my first song in 73 and put it on hard. How was it called? How was it?
45?
Yeah, a 45. You know, and it was records in those days. For those young people that don't know what a record is, it's not what you get when you get arrested. It's a 45 RPM. That's how fast it moves. Okay, and on the turntable, and the big ones is at 33 RPM. Just for the guys that don't know. Okay, this guy's old, but yeah, I go back all those days, and so I made my first recording. I started writing songs back then. I wrote a song called Jíbaro or Jibarito. And I recorded it, and Juan Castro and I recorded the other side, and so we were on the scene. We were family, and when he came in, he became part of the family, and he knows what I mean. I mean, it's not just that we were musicians; we were part of something greater than that. When Michael Jackson had the Pepsi contract.
Yeah.
I had the Coca-Cola and the Budweiser at the same time.
But your hair didn't go on fire.
Exactly.
Like Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Like Michael Jackson, remember that?
So
The hair
it
on
was
fire
it
in
was
that
it was
commercial?
something else. You know, I had the Coca-Cola contract here, and I had the Budweiser contract. I used to play at the parade, at the Puerto Rican parade. Get off one float and run to the other float, and one of the Coca-Cola and one of the Budweiser, and it was great. But this concert, every single musician is a dedicated artist, is a father, is a husband, and it's a Chicagoan, and has dedicated his life to the music. I dedicated my life to the music. I think I performed in every Puerto Rican parade here in East Chicago. Was it Aurora?
Aurora, yeah.
Aurora had one
Aurora,
too.
Illinois?
Yeah,
Okay.
and their festivities, and every time something big happened, I was somehow there. La Justicia was always somehow there. I managed to stay in the flow. I was the guy that could get on stage. I was interviewed once, and the lady that interviewed me wrote, something happens when Ismael gets on stage. There's a transformation, and that's what you saw on the video. I don't like to sing. I like to express with my voice, with my soul, with my spirit. I like to express what I'm singing. I don't just like to sing songs. There has to be a message in that song. And when I write a song, I have to write something to someone. Whoever hears it, I want them to leave thinking of the song or with the song in their minds. And this is the type of musicians that I would choose to perform with me. I fired a whole bunch of them, didn't I? I fired a whole bunch of guys. They were great musicians, but there was always something. You had to be devoted to the music, devoted to the audience. If you are not that, then you don't belong in music. And this is why the president finally found.
All right, let's actually get that up there. This is written to you by the president.
Yes.
We actually zoom in on it. Let's give it a thumbs up if you got it in there.
And this is the stamp of the White House, of the presidential stamp. This is all 100% the real thing, and this is his handwriting here. And yes, I like what he says here at the very end. He says, "I'm granting you your application because you have demonstrated the potential to turn your life around. Now it is up to you to make the most of this opportunity. It will not be easy, and you will conform and confront many who doubt, people with criminal records, and there are many of those. They doubt that we can change. It says, perhaps even you are unsure of how you will adjust to your new circumstances. And indeed I am. He says, but remember that you have the capacity to make good choices. By doing so, you will affect not only your own life, but those close to you. You will also influence, through your example, the possibility that others in your circumstances get their own second chance in the future. I believe in your ability to prove the doubters wrong and change your life for the better. So good luck and Godspeed. Sincerely, Barack Obama." I only read the last paragraphs.
Right.
But
this was a letter. What was the purpose of this letter now?
This was a personal letter. This is not the actual part,
Oh.
the actual commutation.
So this is the
just
actual
a personal.
part for you.
This is just a personal letter from him to me, and I was so moved when I got it, and his words mean so much
because it's a new opportunity for you to start over.
Yes.
And I remember early on, I think even Diesel, you sent out a petition to sign for his freedom,
Right, when it came
and
out.
I'm proud to say
That was all over Facebook.
I even
we
signed
spread
on
it
to
out.
that petition too. And I didn't know you,
Thank
but I
you.
do know one thing: that when Diesel vouches for a person of good character, your actions speak louder than your words. And you know what? You definitely deserve a second chance. I'm looking forward to seeing you play. But let me ask you just like a final thought. Currently, the U.S. has the largest prison population in the free world for a democratic nation, and unfortunately, many men and women of all types of backgrounds are put in jail for horrible reasons. Most notably, if somebody
Right.
has a bad,
Note that there are more, for example, African Americans. There are more young African Americans in jail right now than there ever were as slaves in this country.
And then let's also take to note that if somebody has like a bag of marijuana and they go to jail for 20 years or life, whereas somebody does a more serious crime, they get out maybe a year later. And so there's a double standard that's happening. So what I would like to ask you for your final thoughts for those men and women who are getting out of prison, who are going to be entering a world that doesn't quite understand them, what do you want to say to encourage them, or to as they enter the world once they did time in prison?
Don't give up, number one, and strive to fix the future from inside.
Right.
The reason why I was given this chance was because I didn't conform to my circumstances. I didn't sit back and say, I got a life sentence, this is it, I need help, let me join a gang, let me do this, let me do that, let me get a shank and put it in my pocket or inside my shoe, let me get ready for war, let me get ready to defend myself. Instead, I went ahead and I used what God had given me, and every single asset that I had. I worked for the Board of Education for 6 years. And so I became a tutor at the GED classes and a GED teacher over there. And I helped many to try to better themselves. I became a barber. I became a preacher. I became a minister. I became a mentor. When family members passed, guys were told that you can go to the chaplain, and they say yes. Do you want to see the chaplain? Yes. And when they went for the chaplain, no. Rosa is my pastor. And I was so moved by that. So my circumstances, just like it says here, what you do with yourself is what counts.
Right.
It doesn't matter what you have done. What are you going to do now? And so if you want to change your life, you got to change your life. If you want to make something better for yourself, you got to start doing better things. So I would say to the people that are outside clowning, stop and think. In 1986, there were, I think, just double-digit prisoners in the land. This what, about 500,000 now?
That's it. Right now, the United States is #1 for a democratic nation in the free world that has the highest prison population. That's more than North Korea. That's more than China.
2.5 million.
That's more than the People's Republic of China. That's more than Russia. That's more than North Korea.
And how many were put there for drugs, I wonder?
Yes.
Over half. Yeah.
Over half.
It's just a big way to
So come on, guys. I mean, you know, and let me tell you something. The drug war isn't really over. What it is now we have a new war. And those of you that are going out there with guns and all this stuff, believe me, life without parole, just a conversation alone about a gun can get you that today. You know, I know a young kid that got caught with a bullet and is inside right now serving 40 years for a bullet. That's serious. I was 38 years old when I got arrested. I was the top artist. You know what the U.S. attorney said? He said I had never worked a day in my life. Yet when I was 18, I was already working for the Board of Education. I worked every single day of my life. And I had 2, 3, 4 jobs at a time. And how does he stand there and say, this man has never worked a day in his life, he's a drug dealer? And I can't say anything. I can't say anything. Because the minute I say something, I must answer every single question he asks. So I have to exercise my right to stay quiet. And when you stay quiet, the jury believes, oh, he's quiet, he ain't saying nothing because he's scared. No, it's just that I have no rights. So I advise all of you, in order for you not to get caught up, don't get caught up.
Right. And
Stop. Let's do something to better ourselves. And at the same time, better your life, because without the idea of a future, you have no future.
Right. All right, well then I guess what I can say is Ismael, Diesel, thank you both for joining us here in the studio. And you know what? We're going to prove all the doubters wrong, because on December 2nd, it's going to be your night to shine. 9 p.m. is when it's going to start. We're going to post when the time is.
At Mambo Cafe.
Mambo Cafe.
So that used to be the old K-DRON. So if you're an old 90s, 80s Salsa baller, come out and join us. You'll see a lot of your friends. You'll see a lot of the same people, maybe even the same outfits.
And most notably, too, if you want to follow more content like this, please follow us on Veracity In Defiance on our social links, be it Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our YouTube channel. Stay woke, peace, and Ismael, man, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for asking me to be here.